I've been ordering milk for 6 months, but only got it 5 times. The rest all ended up in the neighbor auntie's stomach. I installed a camera, but she wore a mask to steal it. I got up early to grab it, but she was earlier than me. Finally, I had to use my ultimate move. Cash on delivery. I thought everything was fine. 7 days later, the property manager stood at my door with a grave face. He handed me a piece of paper with 4 words written on it. It left me frozen on the spot. I moved into this neighborhood 6 months ago to sleep a bit more in the mornings. I ordered fresh milk. The milkman delivers it to the milk box before 6 every morning. I usually get up at 7:30. After washing up, I opened the milk box, empty. At first, I thought the milkman forgot. I called to ask. He said firmly, I delivered it, don't worry. I've been delivering in this neighborhood for 3 years. Never made a mistake. Maybe a neighbor's kid took it as a prank. But the next day, the milk box was empty again. The third day, still empty. I got a bit angry. 3 days in a row. This isn't normal, I told Song Negong. Tomorrow, after you deliver, send me a message. He said okay. On the 4th morning, I was woken by my phone vibrating before 6. The milkman messaged me, and I got up immediately. I rushed to the door and opened it. The milk box was empty. The motion sensor light outside was still on. There was a lingering chill in the air. This meant someone took the milk in the few seconds between my message and opening the door. Who would be so bored? And every single day, I decided to install a camera, ordered it online. It arrived the next day. I mounted the camera in the corner above the door. The position was very hidden. It could clearly capture my doorstep and the area across. I connected it to my phone EP, set up motion detection alerts. After doing all this, I felt much more at ease. I wanted to see who this mysterious person was, so obsessed with a bottle of my milk. On the 5th morning, my phone vibrated right around 5:50. It was a motion detection notification. I immediately opened the EP for live footage. A figure appeared on the screen. That person looked familiar. It was Aunt Wang, who lives next door. She's retired and usually very warm-hearted. When I first moved in, she even gave me a plate of dumplings. She always asked about my well-being, being a young guy. Little Lee, you're busy with work, but take care of yourself. Little Lee, have you found a girlfriend yet? I never imagined it would be her. In the footage, she was in her pajamas. Her hair was a mess. She wore a big blue mask on her face, almost covering half of it. She walked to my door, skillfully opened my milk box, looked around cautiously, then took out the milk inside, quickly turned and went back into her own home. The whole process took less than 10 seconds. I stared at the phone screen, stunned. It really was her. I rewound the 6DO. She seemed to know where the camera was, deliberately avoiding looking at it. Wearing the mask was also to hide her face. She knew it was theft. A surge of anger rose in me. I treated you like a caring elder, and you treated me like a fool. A bottle of milk isn't worth much. But I couldn't swallow this insult. I saved the 6DO evidence, got it. But I hesitated to confront her directly. After all, she's a neighbor. If we fall out, we'd see each other every day. How awkward. And she's old. What if she has a heart attack when I accuse her? I decided to give her one more chance. I planned to be earlier than her. The next day, I set my alarm for 5:30. I woke up before dawn, didn't turn on the light, quietly walked to the door, looked through the peephole. The hallway was pitch black, only the green glow of the emergency exit light in the distance. I waited patiently. At 5:45, I heard the milkman's familiar footsteps and the soft clink of glass bottles. The sound was clear in the hallway. The milkman stopped at my door, opened the milk box, put in the milk, closed it. Then he moved on to the next house. I waited for his footsteps to fade, counted to 10 in my head. Then I yanked the door open. No one at the door, and the milk box was empty. I stood there stunned. How is this possible? I was watching through the peephole the whole time. I never saw anyone come by. I immediately checked the camera EP on my phone. No motion detection alerts at all. I double-checked the EP settings. No issues. I pulled up the footage from that time. The screen was completely black. Nothing. I understood. She knew the camera angle around my door. She came up from the other staircase, crouched down in the camera's blind spot, then silently took the milk. I even wondered if she was hiding at the stair corner, waiting. As soon as the milkman left, she struck. That's how she finished before I opened the door. A chill ran through me. This wasn't just petty greed. This was a pathological obsession. She schemed over the timing for this milk, calculated the route, probably even figured out my daily routine. A young guy like me, working overtime every day. How could I possibly outwit a retired auntie who puts all her energy into this? In the afternoon after work, I ran into her in the elevator. Little Lee, you're back. She greeted me with a big smile, looking all kind and gentle, carrying a basket of vegetables. Aunt Wang, went grocery shopping? I forced myself to squeeze out a smile. Yeah, making something nice for your Uncle Zhang tonight. She looked at me with eyes full of elder care. I looked at her smiling face, couldn't connect it to the masked figure sneaking around in the early morning. People like her are terrifying. I decided to stop playing mind games with her. Direct confrontation still felt wrong. What if she fell to the ground, crying and making a scene? I wouldn't be able to explain. calling the police over a bottle of milk. The cops would just try to smooth things over. I thought it over. I didn't need to prove she stole my milk. I just wanted to drink the milk I paid for. Since her target was the milk in the box, I'd make sure there was no milk in the box. I pulled out my phone and called the milk company's customer service. I had one more trick, and it was my last resort. I told customer service, I want to change my milk delivery method. Hello, how can I help you? I don't want the milkman to leave the milk in the box anymore. Is there a problem with the milk box? No, I don't want prepayment anymore. I want to switch to cash on delivery. Sir, most of our customers prepay monthly or yearly plans. That's more cost-effective. I know, but I don't mind the hassle. I want the milkman to knock on my door every morning when he delivers. I'll pay and take the milk on the spot. Sir, you'll need to have exact change ready each day, and the milkman is very busy in the morning. He might not be able to knock at a fixed time. No problem. I'll accept a general time window. I'll be home waiting between 6 and 6:30. I'm willing to wake up early just to get this milk. Oh, cool. Sir, I've noted that. Starting tomorrow, we'll provide cash on delivery service for you. Pay per delivery. Thanks. I hung up. A weight lifted off my mind. I admit I lost. I can't outsmart a meticulous habitual thief. I had to use this most clumsy and most effective method to protect my milk. Cash on delivery. She can't snatch it from the milkman's hands, right? She can't pay for me, right? Thinking about it, I even started looking forward to the next morning. I imagined Aunt Wang, as usual, sneaking up to my milk box, opening it to find it empty. What expression would she have? Disappointment or anger? Would she think the milkman forgot? Then day after day, opening that empty milk box, eventually realizing her fry milk was gone. That feeling was more satisfying than confronting her face to face. That night, I slept really well. The next morning, I woke up at 6 on the dot, without setting an alarm. I went to the living room, made a cup of tea, sat on the sofa, waiting for 6:15. A soft knock came from outside the door. 3 rhythmic taps. I walked over and looked through the peephole. It was the milkman. I opened the door. Your milk. I handed him the exact change I had prepared. Sorry to trouble you every day from now on. No trouble, it's my job. The milkman gave a simple smile, then turned and left. I closed the door, leaned against it, looked at the milk bottle in my hand. It was cold, still damp from the outside air. I unscrewed the cap and took a big gulp. A rich milky flavor filled my mouth. This was the taste. How long had it been since I last drank it? 6 months. Over 180 days. I only got it 5 times. This was the 6th one through my own wit and compromise. I walked to the window with the milk. The sky was just getting light. Downstairs, early rising seniors were exercising. Everything was so peaceful. I opened my phone and checked the camera. Less than a minute after I closed the door, Aunt Wang's figure appeared as expected. She was in the same getup, wearing a mask. Tiptoed to my milk box. Opened it skillfully, then froze. Her hand fumbled around inside the box for a long time. She closed it, opened it again, still empty. She stood up, looking lost, as if wondering what went wrong. She even walked to the stairway to trek, then came back. Finally, she left reluctantly. I watched the surveillance footage. A smile crept onto my face. I was in a great mood that day. Over the next few days, every morning just after 6, the milkman would knock on my door on time. I'd hand over the money and take the milk, then start my day with that hard-earned milk. Every morning, I'd habitually trek the surveillance. Aunt Wang would always appear a few minutes after the milkman left. She'd persistently open my milk box every day, then leave disappointed. I almost felt a bit sorry for her, but remembering what she'd done before, that pity quickly vanished. I didn't expose her. That was already my greatest mercy. I was just taking back what was rightfully mine. We still met in the elevator. Her smile was noticeably less frequent. She'd just nod at me reluctantly. Her eyes held a hint of resentment and curiosity. I guessed she was wondering what trick I'd used. I pretended not to know anything. Greeted her as usual. Good morning, Aunt Wang. She'd give a non-committal The elevator was dead silent. I thought this state was fine. We each kept to ourselves. My world was peaceful. This calm lasted for a week. I thought this would be the end of it. I thought the milk war between us had ended with my indirect victory. I was too naive. I underestimated the depths of a certain person's shamelessness. On the afternoon of the 7th day, I was at home, working overtime on a proposal. The doorbell rang. I thought it was food delivery. I got up to open the door. Standing there was the property manager, Mr. Liu, a middle-aged man in his 40s. I rarely dealt with him. Behind him were 2 security guards in uniform. Manager Liu, what's up? I was surprised. Manager Liu's expression was very serious, even grim. He didn't speak, just looked me up and down. His gaze was Lai. He was looking at a suspect. It made me very uncomfortable. "You're little Li, right?" he finally spoke. His tone was very official. "Det, I am." "What do you need to trek with me?" he said, taking a folder from the security guard behind him, pulled out an A4 sheet of paper, handed it to me. "Take a look at this first." His expression was like a judge delivering a verdict. My heart skipped a beat. I had a bad feeling. I took the paper. It was just a printout, with a few bold black lines of text. The title read, "Application for Compensation for Mental Distress from Neighbor Li." Li was me. The applicant was Wang, Aunt Wang next door. I was stunned. Mental distress compensation? On what grounds? I continued reading the application reason. When I got to the last part, with 4 words handwritten in bold strokes, I felt all the blood in my body freeze. I'd been struck by lightning, frozen on the spot. Those 4 words were, cutting off my food supply. My hands started shaking as I held the paper. This was the most absurd accusation I'd ever heard. I read the entire application carefully. It was written with tearful emotion. Aunt Wang claimed in her statement that she was a lonely, helpless retired elder. 6 months ago, she noticed that in the neighbor's milk box, there was a bottle of lot milk every day. She thought it was a community welfare for special groups, or that the young person ordered too much and was sharing the excess. To avoid wasting food, she helped dispose of it every day. She said that for the past 6 months, this bottle of milk had become her only source of nutrition, the spiritual support for her old age. However, a week ago, this young man, meaning me, heartlessly cut off this supply, causing her to lack enough protein for a week, leaving her dazed, with no appetite, unable to sleep, even triggering her high blood pressure and heart condition, causing her great mental trauma and physical harm. Therefore, she strongly demanded I immediately resume the milk supply and compensate her 5,000 yuan for mental distress, nutrition, and lost work. After reading it, I was too angry to speak. I felt like I wasn't reading a complaint. I was reading a ridiculous novel. Fry milk, help dispose, spiritual support, cutting off my food supply. How can someone be this shameless, turning theft into something so innocent, and so self-righteous? This. I opened my mouth, found my voice was hoarse. You've read it all? This is ridiculous. She steals my milk and then sues me? I held up the paper. Little Li, calm down first. Aunt Wang says. She didn't know it was your order. She thought it was community welfare. She wears a mask and hides from the camera to steal. She doesn't know about the camera? Ma Najio Lu paused. Right, I have surveillance footage as evidence. I save the footage every day. Little Li, let's not rush this. Why not? This is a false accusation. We're here today, not to judge who's right or wrong. We're here to mediate. Ma Najio Lu's tone softened a bit. Aunt Wang is old. She's very emotional. She says if you don't resume the supply, she'll go to your workplace and cause trouble, or jump from the building. I shuddered. A threat. This was a blatant threat. Your neighbors. There's no need to make things so tense. How about this? We'll go calm Aunt Wang down, and you soften your stance a bit. She's an elder. How do I soften? Pay her money? Or let her keep stealing my milk? I felt like my values were being ground into the dirt. Then just be the bigger person. Order an extra bottle of milk for Aunt Wang every day. Why should I? Just out of respect for the elderly. A bottle of milk costs 7 yuan. That's only about 200 a month. Spend a little for peace of mind, right? I looked at Ma Najio Lu's peacemaker face and suddenly understood. He wasn't here to uphold justice. He was here to maintain stability. Aunt Wang was an unstable element, a troublemaker. And I was a reasonable, compromise-able young man. So he chose to sacrifice my interests to settle this mess, because that was the cheapest option. A wave of deep sadness and anger washed over me. In this world, it's not about who's right. It's about who's more willing to go all out. Who's more shameless wins. I took a deep breath. Forced myself to calm down. I looked at Ma Najio Lu and said, word by word, mediation, right? Fine. Time and place. Ma Najio Lu seemed surprised I agreed so quickly. A look of relief crossed his face. Tomorrow at 10, in the community activity room. The community mediator will be there too. I'll be there on time. Ma Najio Lu left satisfied. I closed the door, leaned against the cold door panel, slowly slid down to sit on the floor. I looked at the A4 paper in my hand, cutting off my food supply. Those 4 words burrowed into my brain like a viper. I laughed until tears came. You want to play, huh? I'll play with you to the end. I spent the entire night preparing. This wasn't a war over milk. This was a battle for dignity and boundaries. I couldn't lose. First, I exported all my milk order records and payment receipts from the past 6 months, printed them into a booklet, over 180 days, every single day. That was physical evidence. Then, I downloaded all the surveillance footage of Aunt Wang stealing milk onto my computer. From when she didn't wear a mask, to when she started wearing one, to when she avoided the camera's blind spots. I clipped every segment, arranged them by date and time, made a 10-minute documentary. I even gave the 6DO a title, The Self-Cultivation of a Habitual Thief. I also prepared a UET by Drive, copied all the videos onto it. Next, I called the milk company's customer service. I asked if they could send a staff member to accompany me to the community tomorrow, to verify my milk order and payment method change, to come with me to the community tomorrow. But after I hinted that I might go to the media about their failure to protect customer property, they agreed. They'd send the same milkman with his work ID to testify for me. Finally, I looked up a lot of cases about elderly people and neighbor disputes online. I learned how to stay calm during mediation, how to state facts logically and clearly, how not to be swayed by the other party's emotions. I even did a full rehearsal in my mind for tomorrow's mediation. I imagined all possible reactions from Aunt Wang: crying, faking illness, throwing a tantrum, turning the tables. And for each reaction, I prepared a counter-strategy. I wanted to make her understand, young people aren't pushovers. Being reasonable doesn't mean being weak. After all this, dawn broke. I hadn't slept all night, but my mind was unusually alert. I took a shower, put on clean, sharp clothes, looked in the mirror. I saw my bloodshot eyes, but they were unusually bright. I said to myself, don't be afraid. You're not fighting alone. Behind you stands the word justice. At 9:50 in the morning, I walked into the community activity room with my file bag. There were already quite a few people inside. A long table in the middle. On one side sat Aunt Wang. Next to her was a middle-aged woman who looked like her daughter. On the other side sat 2 community mediators in uniform. Property manager Lu was also there, sitting next to the mediators. A few curious neighbors were scattered around. As soon as I entered, all eyes focused on me. Aunt Wang immediately started her act. She pressed a handkerchief to her chest, looking like she might faint at any moment. Her daughter shot me a sharp glare, her eyes like knives. The mediator spoke. You're little Li, right? Have a seat. I pulled out a chair, sat down at the other end of the long table, placed my file bag on the table. The milkman also arrived and stood beside me. The delivery guy isn't here yet. I need to wait for him. The mediator cleared his throat. Everyone's here. Let's begin then, Aunt Wang. First, state your demands. Aunt Wang's daughter, supporting her, spoke up first. Her voice was sharp and loud. My mom's demand is simple. She's an elderly woman in poor health. She just relies on a warm glass of milk every morning to feel better. This young man is vicious. He cut it off just like that. My mom hasn't eaten well all week. She can't sleep, and her blood pressure spiked. We demand he compensate her. Compensation of 5,000 yuan for emotional distress, not a single cent less, and he must immediately restore her milk delivery. The entire activity room fell silent. Everyone was looking at me. A few neighbors watching began to whisper, this young man is a bit too much. How can he treat an elderly person like this? Exactly. A bottle of milk costs next to nothing. I could feel those disapproving looks, like needles piercing into me. I didn't immediately refute. I just quietly watched Aunt Wang's daughter perform. When she finished, the mediator turned to me. Regarding Aunt Wang's family's statement, what do you think? Before I could speak, Aunt Wang started her part. So bitter. I'm an old woman with no one to rely on. I just want a drink of milk. What's wrong with that? I thought it was a government benefit. If I'd known it was this young man's, I definitely wouldn't have taken it. She cried while secretly peeking at my reaction through her fingers. Her acting was top-notch. Aunt Wang, don't cry yet. Let's take it one thing at a time. First, I want to clarify one point. The charity milk or government benefit you mentioned is a product I personally ordered and paid for with my own money each month. Here are all my order and payment records from 6 months ago to now. They have my name, my phone number, and my apartment number. A total of 183 days. Total, 1,281 yuan. All paid by me personally. The mediator and Ma Nujio Lu both leaned in to look. Aunt Wang's daughter also peeked over. Her expression turned a bit awkward. Second, you said you thought it was a benefit, that you didn't know it was mine. I can't accept that. You take the milk every time at 5 in the morning, between 5 and 6 a.m. Most people are still asleep at that time. You wear a mask, and you deliberately avoid my doorbell camera. If it really was taking a benefit, would you need to be so cautious? You're slandering me. My mom exercises early in the morning. She wears a mask to prevent colds. We don't know anything about any cameras. Don't know. I just so happened to bring some clips of her exercising today. Would everyone lie to watch them together? As soon as I finished speaking, the activity room door opened. The delivery guy rushed in, panting. Oh, sorry. Traffic jam on the way, I'm late. He was wearing his work uniform, with his badge still on his chest. I nodded at him. It's fine. You're just in time. My backup has arrived. I looked at the mother and daughter across from me. Their faces were already starting to change. Buddy, please tell everyone why I changed my payment method. The delivery guy nodded, cleared his throat, because this gentleman told me that he had been ordering milk for 6 months, and it was stolen almost every day. So he asked me to deliver it in person, and he pays me on the spot. One sentence directly shattered the charity milk lie. The neighbors' murmurs began to shift. So it was theft. I knew it. There's no such good benefit. Aunt Wang's face turned red and then pale. Her daughter's lips were trembling. She wanted to say something but couldn't. No, it's not wrong. I just saw it in the milk box and took it. It was just sitting there, not being drunk. Wasn't that a waste? She started to play dirty. I'm old. My memory is bad. I thought I ordered it myself. I forgot I had some here. Even she doesn't believe her own bad memory excuse. It's okay. I'll help you remember. I stood up and walked to the TV in the corner of the activity room. I took out a UET drive and plugged it into the TV's UET port. Ma na Jiao Lu, could you please hand me the remote? I turned on the TV, switched to UET mode. A folder appeared on the screen. I used the remote to open the 6DO file named The Self-Cultivation of a Habitual Thief. The 6DO started playing. The first clip was from 6 months ago. Aunt Wang, without a mask, sneakily walked to my door, took the milk, and quickly left. The second kip, a few days later, she started wearing a mask. The third kip, 1 month later, I had installed a new camera. She started crawling from the other side of the stairs, in an extremely awkward crouching position, perfectly avoiding the main camera area. Only a back view was captured. Kip after kip. The dates were clearly marked at the bottom of the 6DO. The only sound in the activity room was the faint noise from the 6DO. Everyone was staring intently at the screen. The neighbors watching had their mouths wide open, big enough to fit an egg. The mediator's expression shifted from serious to shocked. Ma na Jiao Lu's forehead started to sweat. Aunt Wang and her daughter were as pale as paper. Aunt Wang's body began to sway. Her daughter quickly supported her. Enough. Turn it off. Turn it off now. I pressed the pause button. The screen froze on a close-up of Aunt Wang wearing a mask, with a shifty look, glancing towards the camera. Now, can anyone tell me if this is the behavior of an old person who thought it was a benefit and has a bad memory? This is called stealing. It's theft. It's a crime. My home is not a welfare center, and certainly not a garbage dump. I have no obligation to let anyone dispose of things I paid for. I switched to cash on delivery, just to get back what was rightfully mine. Is that wrong? Because a thief can't steal anymore, she suffers emotional trauma? What kind of logic is that? Bully logic. Today, you wanted a mediation? Fine, I want a mediation too. I picked up the A4 paper on the table, walked up to Aunt Wang. Compensation? Fine. First, pay me back for the 183 bottles of milk from the past 6 months. 1,281 yuan. And emotional distress? Every morning I wake up, I think about how to outsmart a thief, not about how to start my day's work. Because I couldn't get my milk, I was late for work. Who pays for my docked wages? Most importantly, a public apology. You must apologize to me publicly in the community group and on the bulletin board. Admit to your theft. Restore my reputation. My voice echoed in the activity room, forceful and resounding. Aunt Wang looked at me, her lips turning purple. Her whole body was shaking. Suddenly, her eyes rolled back, and she fell straight backward. What's wrong with you? Call 120. Ma na Jiao Lu panicked. He pulled out his phone and dialed 120. The two mediators also scrambled over. Some neighbors shouted. Others stepped back, afraid of getting involved. You caused this. If anything happens to my mom, I'll make your life miserable. I stood coldly in place, watching this farce, faking it. This was one of the scenarios I had rehearsed. I know these people too well. When logic fails and evidence is solid, their last weapon is their own body, using their weakness for moral blackmail. I didn't move. I didn't even show a hint of panic. I just watched quietly. If he's really sick, the ambulance will come. If he's faking it, then this act can't go on forever. The ambulance arrived quickly. 2 medics rushed in with a stretcher. They did a quick trek Who's the family? I'm his daughter. The patient has a history of high blood pressure and heart disease. This is a temporary fainting spell caused by emotional agitation. Nothing serious. Let's take him to the hospital for observation first. The doctor's words confirmed my suspicion. Nothing serious. Aunt Wang's daughter, crying and shouting murder, followed the stretcher out. As she passed by me, she tried to grab me, but was stopped by the security guard. A grand mediation meeting ended with an ambulance. They were gone. The activity room fell quiet. The remaining neighbors looked at me. Their eyes were complex, sympathy, satisfaction, and a bit of fear. Ma Najio Lu wiped his sweat and walked over. Little Lee, look at this mess. Ma Najio Lu, what happened today is clear to everyone. The surveillance 6DO has been submitted to the mediator. My demands were stated clearly. 1. Compensate me for the milk money. 2. A public written apology. If these 2 points aren't met, then we'll see each other in court. No, don't go that far. Between neighbors, it's really not necessary. Whether it's necessary isn't up to me. It's up to the thief and the accuser. I packed up my documents and UET by drive, turned and left. I didn't want to say another word to these people. My stance was very clear. This war, from the moment they submitted that ridiculous application, had no turning back. It's either you die or I die. I went home. I threw myself onto the sofa. My tense nerves finally relaxed. A wave of exhaustion washed over me. I didn't know what would happen next. They might continue to throw a tantrum, or they might just give up. But either way, I did what I had to do. I held my ground. In the afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. Hello, is this Mr. Lee? I am. Who is this? I'm Aunt Wang's son. My name is Zhang Wei. I just got back from a business trip. I heard about this. His voice was full of apology. Mr. Lee, I'm so really, truly so I failed to discipline my mother. I caused you so much trouble. I remained silent. He's actually not a bad person. Just old and a bit confused. Likes to take small advantages. Mr. Zhang, this isn't taking small advantages. It's 6 months of deliberate, daily theft. When caught, instead of showing remorse, she colluded with her family to falsely accuse me and demand emotional damages from me. That's not taking small advantages. That's moral bankruptcy. There was silence on the other end. I could hear his heavy breathing. You're right. I misspoke. I sincerely apologize for my mother's and my sister's behavior. I saw the 6DO you played in the community, and I saw that application. I'm ashamed of them. Mr. Lee, how about this? All your losses, including the milk money and the wages you lost from being late, will compensate you double. Also, I'll have her write an apology letter and pot it on the bulletin board downstairs. Would that be acceptable? His attitude was very sincere. He was completely different from his mother and sister. I thought about it. My gone wasn't money, nor was it to ruin her reputation. I just wanted justice. An apology isn't necessary. Just transfer me the milk money. 1,281 yuan. That's what she owes. As for the apology letter, I need to see it. Oku, no problem. Thank you so much for your generosity. Once I've handled things at the hospital, I will definitely come to your door to apologize in person. No need to come to my door. I just want to lie in peace from now on. I don't want anyone to bother me anymore. I understand. I promise. He hung up. My heart was a mix of emotions. Things seemed to be moving in a good direction. Having a sensible son might be the greatest luck Aunt Wang has ever had. The next morning, I received a transfer notification on my phone. 1,281 yuan. From Zhang Wei. In the afternoon, I went downstairs to throw out the trash. I saw a new A4 paper posted on the bulletin board. It was an apology letter, printed from a computer. Below it was Aunt Wang's crooked signature and a red thumbprint. In the letter, she admitted to her 6 months of theft, and for the trouble and damage to my reputation she caused. She expressed deep apologies, begging for my forgiveness. I stood in front of the bulletin board for a long time. Many neighbors passing by pointed and whispered at the letter. I won this absurd war in my own way. I should be happy, but somehow, I couldn't feel any joy at all. I just felt tired. A bone-deep exhaustion. The apology letter stayed on the bulletin board for a week. It became the biggest news in our building. Aunt Wang never came out again. I heard her daughter took her to lie at her place. Zhang Wei sent me a message once, apologizing again, and said they were planning to sell the apartment. I replied, best wishes. Everything was over. My life returned to peace. Every morning, the delivery guy knocked on time. I drank my own milk. No longer worried about an empty milk box. No longer had to trek the camera to watch those awful clips. The hallway was quiet. I never ran into that uncomfortable person in the elevator again. I got the peace I wanted, but I felt like something was different. I started becoming paranoid. When my neighbor across the hall greeted me warmly in the morning, my first thought was, does he have an ulterior motive? A new family moved in downstairs. They gave me some fruit. I accepted with a smile, then threw the fruit away as soon as I closed the door. I'm afraid. Afraid that behind every smiling face is another face. I'm afraid that so-called kindness and goodwill are just a setup for the next time they want to take advantage. Aunt Wang is gone, but she's like a ghost living in my heart. She showed me the ugliest, most shameless side of human nature, and destroyed the last bit of beautiful imagination I had about neighborly relations. I can't lie in this complex anymore. I started looking at apartments online. I want to move to a farther, newer place where no one knows me. I told a friend about this. My friend was surprised. Didn't you win? You drove that old lady away. Why do you need to move? Yeah, I won. But I won too exhaustingly. To prove I wasn't wrong, I stayed up all night, finding evidence, planning strategies, preparing for a lawsuit. To get back my 7 yuan bottle of milk, I had to turn myself into a thorny fighter. I don't want to lie this anymore. I don't want to be on guard every day, wondering if the next Aunt Wang is about to appear. I understand. There's a saying, if you can't fight them, avoid them. Sometimes leaving is the best choice. Yeah, if I can't fight them, I'll avoid them. It took me a month. I found a new apartment and signed the contract. The day I packed my bags, the sun was shining. I put things into boxes one by one. Finally, I saw the camera I had installed. I took it down, put it back in its original box. I don't need it anymore. I hope in my new place, I'll never have to use it. The moving truck was parked downstairs. I dragged my last suitcase out of the apartment. I looked back at this place I had lived in for less than a year. Here were my late-night work fatigue, my hopes for life, and a war that drained me. I closed the door and turned towards the elevator. My new home is in a very new complex. The neighbors seem to be young people like me. We nod politely when we meet in the elevator, but no one is overly eager to pry into your personal life. This sense of distance feels very comfortable. I didn't order milk delivery anymore. I bought a small refrigerator. I go grocery shopping once a week. Yogurt, plain milk, all kinds of flavors, packed full. In the morning, I take a carton from the fridge, stand on the spacious balcony, look at the tall buildings and the sky in the distance. That feeling is solid and free. I no longer worry about things in my fridge being stolen. Sometimes, late at night, I think of Aunt Wang. Think of her face with the mask. Think of her daughter's sharp screams. Think of that A4 paper that said, cutting off my food supply. Those images are like a nightmare. But I no longer feel anger or sadness. I just think of it as a lesson. A lesson about human nature, about society, and about myself. An expensive lesson. It taught me that kindness needs to have some edge. It taught me that giving in doesn't bring peace. It also taught me that when an environment makes you feel suffocated, bravely leaving is the best protection for yourself. One day, a former friend sent me a screenshot. It was from our old complex's owner group. Someone was discussing the apartment next door, saying the new tenant has a big dog. Every morning around 5, the dog has to go out. It barks loudly in the hallway, waking up the whole building. The new tenant is a young person who doesn't take any nonsense. They argue with anyone who complains. Even the property management can't do anything. The group is full of complaints. Someone said, I really miss that Xiao Li who used to lie here. So quiet, so nice. A bunch of people agreed below. I looked at the chat log and smiled, then turned off my phone. The sun outside was just right. I finished the last sip of my yogurt, got up to go for a walk in the nearby park. The cherry blossoms downstairs are in bloom. I want to go see them. My life should turn to a new page.